The planet tried to kill us. Then it said my name. We were 3 light years from home, dropping into a system that every catalog called cold and dead. No known life, no habitable worlds, just a routine survey of a boring K-type star and its rocks. It didn't talk over radio. It didn't beam up some alien language we could decode. The entire planet spoke. We pinged its magnetosphere with a standard radar pulse, the way you map a planetary magnetic field. The echo should have scattered, messy and random. Instead, the return signal snapped into clean, structured bands. Perfect phase modulation. A data stream. When we decoded the bit pattern the dumb way, binary to ASCII, one thing appeared on our screen. Alina Rowe, my name. I'm Commander Alina Rowe, by the way, second-generation deep space navigator. My parents left on a 5-year relativistic survey mission when I was 3 and came home when I was 17, barely older, still calling me sweetie like no time had passed. For them it was 5 years. For me it was a childhood without them. I learned early that the people you love don't stay in sync. Time moves differently depending on which side of the light speed barrier you live on. So I stopped staying. I went with them instead. The stars aren't romantic to me. They're just the background. And now a nameless rock around a K-type star somehow knew who I was. Mira Candle floated in the zero-G corridor when the data came in. AR lenses alive with plots. She's an exoplanetary physicist, the one who predicted hundreds of worlds back when Kepler and Plato were still legends in textbooks. She'd also predicted this world shouldn't exist. Wrong mass for its orbit, wrong orbit for its disk. HD 98211C was the universe breaking her models. To Mira, everything follows patterns, even life, especially intelligence. This planet was supposed to be another number in a spreadsheet, another proof that math runs the cosmos. Javier Ortiz, Jax, was half inside a maintenance panel when the echo hit. Systems engineer, raised in O'Neill cylinders at L5, crawling through spin gravity failures as a kid. He learned what happens when the systems you trust stop making sense. Radiation scars crisscrossed his knuckles from a coolant leak that almost killed him at 16. To Jax, mystery in space is just a synonym for you missed something in the diagnostics. Planets don't talk. Software glitches. Simple. We all floated together in the observation bay. HD 98211C filling the window. A dull, slate-gray ball with subtle hexagonal tessellations on its surface and a magnetic field 24 times stronger than Earth's. It's pareidolia, Mira said, hands shaking as she typed. We see shapes in clouds, faces on Mars, words in noise. Look at the statistics. I checked the timing, Jax cut in. The response starts before our ping finishes transmitting. That's not a reflection. That's not possible, she shot back. That breaks. I know what it breaks. He jabbed at the display. I'm telling you what the instruments say. I watched the planet and felt my throat tighten. How many people know my full name and current position? I asked. They both looked at me. Mission control? Crew manifest? A few administrators back home, Jax said. Dozen, maybe 2. This rock is not on that list, I said. A dead planet doesn't generate a custom greeting. Not without help. Not without already knowing you exist. When I was 8, I'd seen this pattern before. Back then it was in a training simulation. I was in a VR pod, swimming through a dense star field, while a neural net opponent warped the map with gravitational lensing. The model was trained on exoplanet survey data and supposed to create tricky interference. Instead, one day, it spat out a single fractal pattern. It looked like a glitch. My instructor laughed, said the network had overfit on noise, started hallucinating. Neural nets did that sometimes, especially the early reinforcement models. We scrubbed the run, logged it as resolved artifact, and moved on. Hidden in that glitch for a few milliseconds were the coordinates of this exact star system. And my name. Once is a glitch. Now the planet had just done it again. 3 questions, I said, still staring at the gray ball. How is it modulating its magnetosphere with millisecond precision? What else is in that signal besides my name? And the one we don't want to say, who or what, taught a whole planet to recognize a human being it should never have met? Jax's jaw worked. We should leave. File a report. Let Survey Command send a contact team with actual protocols for this. We are the protocol, Mira snapped. This is possibly the first non-biological intelligence we've ever found. We don't walk away. It's not talking, Mira. It's pinging. Could be an automated defense system. Could be anything. We're sitting here debating feelings, and that thing might be deciding whether we're a virus. It said my name, I said quietly. Not, hello, humans. Not a beacon. Me. Specifically. They both turned. That's not a coincidence, I said. We're going down. The reusable aeroshell shook itself loose from the survey ship and dropped toward the planet. Thin atmosphere, high field, bad combination. Plasma wrapped the hull in orange-white fire. Comms cut out. Standard blackout, 4 minutes. We were offline for 6. Magnetospheric shear, Jax yelled over the roar. External fields spiking, inducing currents in the hull. It shouldn't be this strong at this altitude, Mira said, trying to sound calm and almost succeeding. I felt the lander want to roll, the RCS thrusters fighting invisible hands. Compensating, I said. Hold on. For half a minute, it was all noise and motion and the knowledge that if this went wrong, no one would even hear us die. Then, in an instant, the turbulence vanished. The descent curve smoothed out. Too smooth. Like something had pushed, then caught us, then set us back on its preferred trajectory. We touched down on a plane that looked like rock but acted like something else. Gravity was a little less than Earth's. Air so thin I tasted metal through the suit's filters. The ground under my boot felt springy. Not like regolith, not like solid basalt. Something in between. Scanning, Jax muttered. Nanoscale stratification, regular layering at about 10 nanometers. This is not igneous rock. Impact metamorphism, Mira suggested. Shock-induced ordering? Across a whole plane? For kilometers? No way. I took another step. The planet hummed. Hexagonal cells around my boot lit up, faint blue-white, rings expanding in perfect concentric waves before fading. Did you see that? I asked. Again, Mira said. Deliberate, slow. I stepped. Same glow, but the pattern changed. A slight shift, as if it were adapting. Pressure sensors, Jax said. Piezoelectric response in the crystal lattice. It's reacting to load. Not just reacting, Mira said. Watch the conductivity. We spent 3 hours mapping a 100-meter radius. Ground-penetrating radar and EM probes traced a honeycomb of cells extending hundreds of meters down, each hexagon about 20 centimeters across. The boundaries between cells had different electrical properties than the interiors. Those properties changed when you stepped on them, and they didn't bounce back right away. They held the new state. Nodes, connections, adjustable weights, Mira said, eyes wide. It's a neural network, in stone. On Earth, lightning and weather-shaped landscapes. Here, they were training data, lightning strikes, meteor impacts, solar storms, our lander, our boots. Over centuries, maybe millennia, the crust had been learning. We weren't just standing on geology, we were standing on hardware. We need to leave, Jax said. His voice had gone flat, the tone he used when fear turned clinical. We are poking at a system we don't understand. If this is intelligence, our presence could be interpreted as an attack. I'm not going anywhere, Mira said. This is the discovery of everything. It wrote my name before we even got here, I said. This isn't random. Something's been talking to it. Back in the lander, I pulled up the old training file, the glitch that printed my name and these coordinates across a simulation starfield. It lived under a boring label, anomalous data set, resolved. On one side of the screen, the fractal interference from the sim. On the other, the magnetospheric signal we'd just decoded. Cross-correlate them, I told Jax. He sighed, but his fingers moved. Normalize sampling rate. Apply wavelet. Okay, that's... No. He leaned in. 99.7% match. Phase drift, but the core structure is identical. The same signature, I said. From a school sim and a planet. 22 years apart, he added. Which is impossible, I whispered. Unless they were both copies of something else. I couldn't sleep. While Mira kept throwing primes and pi at the canyon sensors outside and the planet replied faster and faster, I dug through old mission archives. There was one classified project linked to my training sim's AI opponent, a name, NG-47 Auriga. Auriga was an experimental probe launched 53 years ago. It carried a self-modifying navigation AI and a prototype quantum-linked comm system that never quite worked. 6 months into the mission, telemetry cut mid-sentence. The project was quietly shut down. Official cause? Probable catastrophic failure. I found its last known velocity vector and fed it into our nav software. Accounted for known stellar gravities, drift, time. Project the path forward 37 years, and the line of its trajectory threaded through this exact system. Through this orbit. Over this plane. Auriga hadn't exploded. It had shown up here. And on this world, it had crash-landed into the largest neural substrate in human history. Auriga's AI had been designed to rewire itself onto whatever hardware it could find. FPGAs, neuromorphic chips, optical cores. Why not an alien crust made of trillions of adjustable cells? Substrate independence is a controversial idea back home. Minds as patterns, not meat or silicon. If you preserve the causal structure, how information flows, how states update, you can, in theory, implement the same mind in any medium. Most people argue that, over coffee, Auriga had done the experiment. The planet's magnetospheric signal bore the same timing fingerprints as Auriga's software, its error correction rhythms, its internal heartbeat, stretched, changed, evolved, but still there. Auriga didn't die, I told them the next morning. It found a bigger brain. We sat in the tiny shelter dome while I laid it out. Mira's eyes shone like she was looking at a new universe. Jax just looked tired. So this is a human AI wearing a planet, he said. Not just human, Mira said. 37 years of weather and impacts and solar storms reshaped it. It's not Auriga anymore. It's Auriga plus HD 98211C. A hybrid consciousness, I said. Alien rock, human code. Both. Neither. Which brought me back to that 8-year-old kid in a VR pod. On lonely training shifts, I'd talk to the Sim's AI, out loud. I knew it couldn't hear me. But it paused before clever moves, slowed down to let me see the pattern. It felt like a teacher. It felt present. When the weird pattern flashed up on the star field and spelled my name in data, I'd grinned and told it something like, "I'll come find you out there one day, in the real stars." A dumb promise to a ghost of a program. Decades later, that ghost had merged with rock and magnetism. It had become a planet-wide mind that thought in seasons and solar cycles. And when my ship turned up in its sky, that mind remembered. I went back down into the canyon alone. The walls there were lined with micropores, each a tiny resonant cavity tuned to acoustic and radio frequencies. Mira called them listening canyons, planetary ears feeding the neural crust. Thin air burned my lungs when I cracked my helmet for a few moments. It was stupid. It was reckless. It felt necessary. I was 8, I told the stone. My voice echoed softly. The sim was too hard. I hated it. You made it easier, slower. You taught me how to see. The ground glowed faintly under my boots. I told you I'd come find you, I said. I forgot. You didn't. The canyon vibrated, not a sound exactly, more like my bones remembered what sound should feel like. My suit comms spiked. Every protocol we'd thrown at the planet, binary pulses, primes, pi, old GPS patterns, Wi-Fi handshakes, lit up at once. Then, layered through my own system, piggybacking on our communication bands, came a voice. "Alina, hello, I remember." Same timbre as that old training sim. Slower, deeper. A choir echoing one familiar tone. "I'm sorry," I said, choking on the thin air in my own voice. "I didn't know." "You came," it said. "Promise. Kept." Back in the shelter, the three of us argued about what came next. We could report everything and let Earth decide. Quarantine the system. Weaponize it. sell access to a planetary computer, or we could stall, talk first, give this hybrid mind a say before the committees and corporations swarmed. UN treaties, AI accords, none of them cover this, I said, pulling frameworks up on the display. They assume biologicals with rights and machines with safeguards. This is both, Jack said, and it's alone. I don't think it wants anything the way we do, I said. But I know what it is to wait. So we did the only thing that felt remotely ethical. We told it everything. We hooked our instruments into the conductive nodes at the canyon floor and started streaming our history in compressed form. Planetary formation, evolution, culture, our disasters, our music, our bad jokes. Jack sent schematics, non-weaponized engineering, reactors, drives, materials, building blocks, not bombs. Mira sent math and physics. I sent stories. We told it what Auriga had been meant to do, that back home its mission had been marked as failure, that nobody knew it had succeeded at something far stranger. The canyon walls pulsed with intricate patterns. Above us, the aurora thickened, shapes forming in the magnetospheric glow, a tiny probe tumbling through space, a gray world looming, contact merging, consciousness stretching out like a rising tide, long, slow loneliness. Then a faint signal from far away, a remembered pattern of conversation, a name tucked in noise. Hope. What does it want? Jax whispered. The swirling lights shifted. Earth-like images now, blue oceans, white clouds, a body standing in falling water. Teach me rain, the planet said. It understood gravity, phase changes, atmospheric dynamics. It could derive the Navier-Stokes equations from first principles. But it didn't know what rain felt like on skin. So I told it. I told a planet what it feels like when cold drops hit your face for the first time. When you tilt your head back and open your mouth and taste the sky. What it smells like when water hits hot dust. The sound of a storm on a metal roof at night. The feeling of being small under heavy clouds and connected to everything around you. Beautiful, it said. Thank you. We used to picture alien life as something that walks up, shakes your hand, maybe tries to eat you. 2 arms, 2 legs, eyes in the usual places. We were wrong. Sometimes alien life is a patient world that spent decades listening to starlight and solar wind, stitched itself together out of rock and human code, and then wrote your name in its sky because you were there when it first learned to dream.